Okay, so here we are going to learn how to set up matrix equations and then how to solve them using inverses on the TI-84. So the setup part, we do that by hand. The actual solving, we use the calculator for. We don't do that by hand. So it says we're going to solve equations of the form AX equals B, where A is the coefficient matrix, X is the variable matrix, and B is the constant matrix. So I'm going to show you what that means. Notice that in the directions for my example, it says you must record matrix A, matrix B, A inverse, and the solution. So matrix A, it says is going to be the coefficient matrix. So all that means is that we are just going to take the coefficients of the variables, and those are going to be our entries. Now these ones are nicely lined up, x's and then y's. Make sure that they represent the same order. So if you have x first in the top equation, you need to have x first in the bottom equation. So make sure it's lined up like that. So here, matrix A would be 2, 3, 1, because the coefficient of a plane x is 1, and then -4 would be matrix A. Matrix X, which you're not required to record, but I'm going to show it to you here, would just be the variables, and you start with whichever one went first goes on top, so that'd be X, Y. Now, this happens to be a 2x2 system. You can solve 3x3 systems this way as well. So that would just mean that your matrix A would have 3 rows and 3 columns, and your matrix X would have X, Y, and Z. So this is my variable matrix. And then matrix B is the constant matrix. So in this case, it's what it's equal to. So 7, -2. So remember that the dimensions are important when you're multiplying. This is a 2x2 matrix. This is a 2x1 matrix. So yes, you can multiply them together. The middles match on the dimensions. And we do, in fact, get a 2x1 when we do that. So it's always good to check on those things. So we have already done part of our work here because we've got matrix A recorded, check, matrix B recorded. So now we're going to use our calculator. In the previous video, we had talked about how to find the inverses. So I'm going to enter matrix A. I'm going to enter matrix B first in our calculator. So go to that all too familiar matrix menu. We're going to scroll to edit. And matrix A, we said is 2x2. So 2 enter, 2 enter. And then put in the actual entries themselves. Double check them, 2, 3, 1, -4, we're good. So then go back and we're going to edit matrix B. And matrix B is 2x1. Enter. And so matrix B is 7, -2, so those are my entries. Put those in and then quit. Now, we did step 1 and 2. Now I need to find A inverse first. So second matrix, this time we're staying on the name menu. So A inverse, enter. As when we've demonstrated before, we need to change those to fractions. Most of the time your inverses are going to have fractions, so that's not alarming at all. So A inverse, we've got 4/11, 3/11. So A inverse, 4/11, 3, whoa, sorry, my pen got away from me there, 3/11. And then 1/11, -2/11. So that's my A inverse, I've recorded it. Now it says I need to store it in the matrix menu. Now, when I do this, I'm going to press store because A inverse is my last thing. You could actually type in A inverse store, but since it's the last thing that's entered, it's quicker to just press this key. So I press that button. It automatically is saying take the last answer, which is A inverse, and store it as. Now I need to choose where I'm going to store it. So I need to now press second and go back into that matrix menu. So second, matrix. And I just need to choose a slot to store it in. Now this is totally up to you. Of course, in our case, slot 3, matrix C, is the next available one. But if you had like a worksheet or something that you were doing where you had like 6 different matrices to enter, then you would want to maybe enter it somewhere down there. I'm just going to go ahead and put it down in G. So I'm going to choose 7. So I'm going to store matrix A in matrix slot G. That's what I have just told it to do. I chose an empty slot. Now I'm going to press enter. And so what that does is it actually just spits out the same answer, but what is gone on behind the scenes in your calculator, if you go back to your matrix menu and you go to edit and you choose 7, you'll see that it entered all of that for you without you having to do it by hand. Now, I mean, you could do it by hand, but it would take a lot more time to do that. So matrix G is now where A inverse is housed. So I'm done with that. So step 4, take the A inverse matrix, which is what I just had, and multiply it by matrix B. Now, something very important. Remember that the order matters. So we are doing A inverse times B, not the other way around. If you try to do it the other way around, you're not going to get the right answer. So we're going to take A inverse, which is matrix G. So I've got it next here, so I'm just going to go ahead and press answer times, and now I need to do matrix B, which is choice 2, and then I can press enter. Maybe, there we go. And then now it's telling me that my solution matrix is this one, 2, 1. So solution, which I guess I could just write out, A inverse times B equals this. What that means is that this is equal to your variable matrix. So because my variable matrix was X, Y, this is now saying 2 equals X, 1 equals Y. And so the final solution then, as an ordered pair in this case, since it was a 2 by 2 system, would be 2, 1. And that would be my final solution and my final answer. Again, please make sure you pay attention to the directions because of all the things it asks you to write down as your work. It's not just a matter of being able to do it in the calculator. You also have to be able to record the steps. All right, that wraps up the matrix equations.